So obviously, big times at the moment. You guys are excited about the new album being out there now. What's it been like so far?
It's actually been pretty awesome. Actually, I've been in bands before that have released albums, and sort of had like a couple of interviews and a few people interested. But this has been fantastic. Like, we're sort of being swamped with interviews, and like almost all of the reviews so far have been really, really positive.
Oh, that's good. Obviously, it's a debut release, right? This is the first thing you've put out since the band formed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a two-track demo a few years ago, but yeah, the first kind of serious, here it is.
Yeah, so take us back to the beginning of this album then. Like, when did you start coming up with ideas for this? Was it pretty much at the beginning of when the band formed, or was it a bit later on, or?
Yeah, and even earlier, I think there's bits of music in here that Jason and I have been jamming on since probably, I don't know, like 2016, 2017 maybe. But when we, got together with Jon and started working on it seriously, I think, maybe Kingdom was the first song that kind of came together, maybe. But yeah, like right from the beginning, we've been kind of crafting these songs, putting them together, and getting to them to the point where we were ready for an album.
And obviously, you must have been playing shows before all this as well. So I guess a lot of these songs were kind of tested on stage and stuff beforehand, right?
Definitely, absolutely.
I guess that's that normal thing for debut albums, right? You have your songs, and they're the ones that you're going to record, and they're the ones that you're playing up until you actually record. So I guess those songs have sat with us for quite a long time. I mean, we're now now down the track where the album's coming out, and we've been working on new songs for like the last couple of months now.
Yeah.
But I don't think any of us are tired of playing the songs that are on the record, that's for sure.
Yeah, and also, like, when playing them on stage, especially when they're still kind of in that period of like in the sort of creative aspect, did any of that kind of change over the years as well because you were playing them live?
Yeah, definitely. I think like things like the song 2340, the verse in that song's changed quite dramatically from when we first started working on it. The ending of Come Home was like a recording editing room mishap that became a really cool riff. The very final riff sort of changes into this kind of new vibe from where the song was before that, the final riff, but it's actually the exact same riff as we play in the verse, but moved 1 or 3 notes from where it should be, from an accidental click or drag after we recorded the bass tracks for it. And we thought, actually, this sounds great, let's keep it. So that's what we ended up having to learn and record.
Yeah, cool. I listened to the album, and obviously it's got all that doom sort of aspect to it. But what I also get from the album is there seems to be kind of a lot of spaces for kind of, I guess, improvisation or kind of adding extra things in there. I mean, do you guys kind of do that at all when you're playing them live?
Yeah,
I don't. I hold the middle and keep the same pace and the same thing, so that Jon and Pete can shift around a bit if they want to. But that's nice and straightforward for me.
I guess we do kind of play still within our own little sort of spaces. We're not sort of filling the spaces at all. The space is there for a reason, really. We're not going to fill it every space with saxophones or keyboard solos or anything. It's there for a reason. And
we've actually, in listening to a lot of the other bands that are out there, we're into bands like Resin and a few of those others, and you hear what they do in the gaps, and I mean, they're quite good at still holding the gap, but they're plugging in keys and saxophones and an extra drum kit or an extra this or an extra bass player. But we kind of like that gap. When you think about bands like Monolord, they let that gap sit, and that's something that I really like. I like each part of the music to have its moment and not just be rushing to get to the next thing or filling that cavity. I kind of think of it like, you know, when people are moving to the music, there's the note, there's the space, there's the note, there's the space, and let them have that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it's obviously sort of ties into the, I guess, the sound of the band. So in that, in saying that, I do sort of, I am curious as to what kind of influences you guys have collectively. You know, like what sort of bands were inspiring you to sort of pick up the instrument and start playing.
Yeah, it's a pretty diverse set. You know, I think when I really got serious about playing guitar, when I was young, I was listening to you know, Powderfinger and Tool, and you know, kind of like alt rock and kind of the emerging metal of the post grunge sort of world. But then really in terms of forming the musical vision of what we're doing here, it was more bands like All Them Witches and My Dying Bride, and you know, Enslaved is a band that I absolutely love to death. And there's not a lot of room in the genre that we play to kind of bring that influence out, but I can still feel the weight of that music kind of pushing me in that direction.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I mean, you can sort of hear a lot of different things. I mean, most people probably, I mean, I'm sure you've heard this numerous times, that Black Sabbath must have been an influence on you guys as well. You know, it seems pretty obvious.
Yeah, and I think as the
Of course.
you know, as the founding fathers of the genre, you can't play Stoner Doom without sounding a little bit like Black Sabbath. I think if you don't sound at all like Black Sabbath, you're probably playing a different sort of music.
Yeah.
In that way. But
I think there's, you know, the bands that you mentioned, Pete, there's probably only a couple that would be influences for me. And I've got a whole bunch of other things that I would cite as influences. And maybe that's one of the cool things. We're not all just coming from the same direction. We are coming from different directions. So I think that's that helps. And one of the bands that I think we've all sort of talked about is Portishead, who are, you know, they're nothing like what we do, but there are parts of it that, you know, there's a feel, there's a drum pattern that I totally stole off them, but the way it's presented, you probably wouldn't think of it as being Portishead, but that's just, you know, that's the great thing about having different musical tastes within the band.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. So putting all those kind of different sort of tastes and interests and influences and all that in the creative space that you guys were sort of writing this music, were you kind of aware and sort of like trying to stay away from those influences, or were you just trying to just come up with stuff that was just floating in your head, or how was the process for you guys?
I think we're really focused on what's our own response to the music that we're playing. In the sense that I think, you know, for me, I can't avoid the influence of the music that I listen to. Every time I listen to a song that I like, as soon as the music stops, my mind starts writing music like that music. You know, like I hear the music continue, but it's my own imagination kind of carrying it forwards. But I think the key for us has been to, well, at least for me, is to think of the influences in the music that I love are like stars that we use to navigate. And so, you know, they pull us a certain direction, but we're not trying to be them. We're not trying to write their song again or kind of sneakily cover somebody else's songs with our own lyrics.
Yeah, no, that obviously makes sense. One of the things that I read in your press release as well, that you guys have also been influenced by H.P. Lovecraft and a lot of his work as well. So in what way was that sort of used as an inspiration for you guys as well?
That's some dark shit.
Yeah.
It's, like I'll kick it off. I mean, Pete's got a much detailed concept because he writes all his lyrics and the core of the music. But for me, it's like I've been a massive, you know, horror film fan all my life. Well, you know, from a reasonable age. And you know, I love that darkness. I love that depth. I'm terrified of the ocean. Like I don't want to go out too far in the water. And these concepts that that Lovecraft has of these creatures that in written word, you know, they're so hard to put into film because they're just the way he describes them, and it just creates this image in your mind of this absolute terror. And for me, like, to try and grab some of that essence and put it into sound is a little bit more achievable than into film.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been really exciting to sort of to get that. And I guess it's more of for me, it's a mindset. When we're playing the music, I'm imagining something. I'm imagining what's going on. I'm imagining a scene. And if I can get that feeling up in myself, then maybe that's going to affect how I play a bit. You know, again, just rest on some of those pauses, hit a note a bit harder, depending on, you know, that sort of feel. But lyrically and stuff, it's more up to Pete.
Yeah, I mean, the inspiration for me with Lovecraft's work is I love the feeling of like in Lovecraft, the big baddie, Cthulhu's not like, he doesn't hate you and he doesn't dislike you. He doesn't even know you exist. You know, you're too small for him to even notice. But just the weight of his presence near you is enough to destroy you and, you know, drive you mad and bring darkness and despair. And I think that sense of the inescapable, unfightable darkness as a concept, I think really appeals to me, you know, especially in the context of doom and, you know, kind of sad, depressive songs. And, you know, in my mind, writing this album, a lot of that was tied in with kind of thoughts and experiences around mental illness and mental health, that I think that sort of comes across that way, that, you know, if you've ever talked to someone or ever experienced a really, really dark depression, you know, it's not like a bad feeling you can try and fight off. It's like an overwhelming tide that you can't even understand that sweeps you away. And I think, you know, that's really what I try to capture in the lyrics and the stories of the songs.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that feeling from listening to the music, and you sort of have these images that sort of are conjured in your head, and certainly H.P. Lovecraft was someone that did that very, very well as well, just in, you know, sort of a text sort of format. And it is amazing how much of an influence that his work has had on so many metal bands as well.
Oh yeah, you know, it's there's just, and that's one of the reasons why he's such a kind of towering giant in horror fiction, is just his work captures the imagination and doesn't just paint this specific picture where everything that references it is so clearly, you know, recognizable, so much as it creates this vast world for interesting ideas to live in.
Yeah. So just going back to the sort of the creative aspect again. So you mentioned like you were working on some new material now. So working on that, what did you kind of find was one of the most things that you learned about the most during this first album that you might want to try and do or try to avoid on the next release?
Shit, I'm not sure we've learned anything yet. I think it's going to be a while, you know, as we start to work on new things, and I guess, I don't want to say that we sort of learn, you know, from what people out there like or don't like, because it's not necessarily what we want to do. But you know, we're still sort of just working on whatever comes up. And, you know, we will be, I guess, choosing from, you know, many songs that we come up with and sort of having a look at what works together. And if that takes us in a slightly different direction, that's fine. That's great. We're not sort of tied to doing the same kind of thing every time we do an album. So I guess when it actually comes time to actually put things down, then we'll maybe realize what we have learned. We still won't know what we haven't learned, but
yeah. I think something that I really I learned a lot when we were recording Kingdom Cold was working on arrangements, and, you know, how long do you play each part of the song for, and you know, because sometimes something maybe needs to be a little bit longer to really kind of be with you, and other times, you know, there's bits where we pulled one bar or even, you know, two notes from a section of the song, and it completely transformed how that part of the song felt. So I'm really happy with how that kind of came together in the song. I think if we go back to how the songs were before we kind of did the pruning to, I guess, tighten the arrangement, I think it was a big improvement, and really happy with what we recorded. And I think moving into our next album, I'm keen to kind of do the next round of learning in that same thing, to say, how can I write songs that capture my imagination and capture my movement, and then hold my attention, you know, every second of however long that it is.
Yeah. Well, anyway, like I said, it's good stuff, and I really enjoyed listening to the album. So definitely a great debut release, I guess, you know. So I know you got a bunch of shows coming up as well, but are there any plans long term for doing more touring and things like that?
Yeah, I think we're really keen to tour. You know, we love playing gigs, we love playing music, and we're keen to get out there and, you know, see the world off the back of our music. So I think we're just looking for the right time, and to make sure that things are lined up to make that work.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, absolutely got plans to travel. It's just a question of finding the right people to do it with, and the right time.
Sure. Just a sort of oddball question to throw at you, but if there was one band you would love to support, who would that band be?
Ooh.
It's gonna be three different answers.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, that's okay. Come on.
No, I'm not starting.
Yeah. No, I'll go. Hangman's Chair is a band I've been listening to a lot lately, and I'm just fallen in love with their music. And I think very selfishly, I'd love to play with them, because I'd also love to see one of their concerts. So
yeah.
I reckon I'd love us to support Electric Wizard.
oh yeah,
They came to Australia before COVID, but they only did one gig, and that was at Dark Mofo down in Hobart. But for me to get down there, it was going to cost me like $500 just to go and see them. So that didn't happen. So I think they owe me, actually. So
I'm gonna go totally different. Probably All Them Witches.
oh yeah.
They've been, you know, I've been listening to them for a while, and I really dig their stuff. There's some stuff that I'm, you know, can leave, but some of their stuff is just brilliant, and that would be such a great show to go and see as well. So yeah, they're definitely up there for me.
Awesome. Well, like I said, congratulations on your debut album. Fantastic stuff. And look, thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. It's been a fun chat today.
Yeah,
Thank
cheers.
you.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you.